live look at the Flash Cinemacon reactions. Oh my god, this is one of the best superhero movies ever. Believe the hype. The Flash is the best DC film since The Dark Knight. No joke, The Flash is the ultimate movie-going experience. Avoid all the spoilers if you can for this movie. There are some incredible surprises that will blow you away. The Flash is so much fun. It's the funniest DC film yet. Please help me.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So I was going to make a video talking about the very obvious and BS first reactions to a movie like The Flash coming out of Cinemacon 2023. But you guys already know what that is. Shills doing shill things. Look at it this way, there's a reason that most of those people were invited to that event in the first place. And you already know how I personally feel about the Flash movie. Nostalgia bait and CGI bullshit that I'll probably forget about in a day.
Something very familiar about all this.
But what I really wanted to talk about today was some of the films actually worth talking about coming out of Cinemacon. Most notably, the return of two of the GOATs, and two men that know how to make films that are actually worth being hype about. And of course I'm talking about Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. And make no mistake about it, I have great respect for both of these men, because of the way that they take their craft seriously. Because of the way that they approach telling stories, which unfortunately has become an outlier in modern Hollywood. First we have Christopher Nolan, who unveiled nail-biting Oppenheimer footage to a huge applause at Cinemacon. Oppenheimer will chronicle the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the American physicist who helped create the atomic bomb. Nolan himself said of his latest film, "I know of no more dramatic tale with higher stakes." And if you needed another reason to support a legend like Christopher Nolan, he is also a very big advocate of the big screen experience and highly critical of streaming, which again is something that I happen to personally agree with. And what Christopher Nolan offers that a lot of modern filmmakers do not is the perfect blend of spectacle and storytelling in his films. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
That makes sense.
And this is what a great director should do. They should be looking for interesting stories that have never been told before. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm personally tired of seeing the same stories told over and over again. And the great thing about him is that he takes those stories and puts his own cinematic flair on them, which typically results in legitimate movie magic. And I have no doubt in my mind that Christopher Nolan has taken this opportunity to craft something memorable.
Because it's all part of the plan.
Because that's what he's done every single time he's released a film. He has that kind of track record. He will most likely create something that you will be thinking about long after you leave the theater in July. If in fact you are a cinema fan like I am. It's not easy to take a moment in history and tell that tale in a way that surprises audiences. Only the greats can do that, and I believe Christopher Nolan is one of those talents. If there's one thing that modern films are missing, it's real stakes. A reason for the audience to care about what's going on.
Me help you.
It's difficult for me personally to care about a film when I'm watching something that's wall-to-wall terrible CGI. Meanwhile, Christopher Nolan is out here recreating real atomic blasts for this movie. Seeing something creative and innovative, that's something that excites me while watching films. And that's the difference between just another movie and pure cinema. And I assure you that the weight of how these events in history shaped our society will be felt.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
Nolan has proven several times over that when he steps behind the camera, that film is worth being excited for. And I don't care how it ends up, it might not light up the box office. It might not excite the trolls and fanboys on Twitter. They'll probably be watching Barbie instead anyway because that's a bit more their speed. Regardless of all of that, this is about Nolan building his legacy as a storyteller, which is what is really important when it comes to filmmaking. And honestly, I personally cannot wait to see it.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
Next, we also had Martin Scorsese premiering the first trailer for his twisty mystery, Killers of the Flower Moon, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. A movie that's been on my radar since it was announced. Martin Scorsese joining forces with two of his most frequent collaborators, who also happen to be two of the greatest actors of all time. I say shut up and take my money.
I
buy that for $1.
And the greatest living director himself shared this trailer at Cinemacon. It is a true story that pulls back the curtain on a series of murders of wealthy Osage people that took place in the 1920s after major oil deposits were discovered on their land. First of all, it's nice to see creatives embracing Native American imagery and stories once again, instead of seemingly trying to erase them from history and pop culture.
That's racist.
I've already seen some people complaining about the near 3.5 hour runtime of this film, and that's kind of become a typical thing anytime Martin Scorsese releases a film. Let's be honest, the man doesn't make a movie every year like some people, so I say if he feels he needs that kind of runtime to tell this story properly, then he earned the right to do so. For people still bitching about it because they don't have the attention spans to watch something like that, I would say relax, it's going to be released on streaming and you can pause it anytime you want.
Let me tell you something about America. Nobody likes a smartass, alright?
And it's interesting how people don't have a similar complaint when they're binge watching some garbage show on Netflix. But you know, selective outrage is everything now. Me, I'll be watching happily as one of the greatest directors of all time does what he does best. Create films and not amusement park rides. I'm also incredibly intrigued at the prospect of seeing De Niro and DiCaprio on screen together.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Two masters of their craft who put their all into their roles, especially when Martin Scorsese is behind the scenes orchestrating everything. Some may call a movie like this Oscar bait, and it probably is. I'm just going to personally call it something that is most likely of quality and worth the hype. And I'm talking about legitimate hype, not the manufactured hype that we see every time a superhero movie is released. Truthfully, these types of movies just don't get made anymore, unless you have the clout of someone like Christopher Nolan or Martin Scorsese.
Anybody care about what I want? I do. Shut up. Get out.
Artists who have earned the right to tell the stories that they want to tell, regardless of how much Hollywood refuses to embrace those types of stories. If we are going to get out of the current era of film that we find ourselves in, littered with mediocre and overhyped movies, then we need people like Nolan and Scorsese to take a stand and remind us of what films can be again. Works of art that inspire future filmmakers to approach filmmaking with the same care and grace that they do. And let's face it, movies like The Flash just aren't going to do that.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.